It's me, and I'm back at it again with part two of the story video. Yeah, so last time I left you, I was 10 years old and I'd started the first big fire in my life. And this time I'm gonna be a little older. But I will not be wiser. I will not. Now, usually when I like to tell this story, I like to hide the fact that I'm going to start a fire. I can kind of bury that a little bit. And maybe it makes a little bit of a better story that way, I'm not sure. But either way, y'all know it's coming. So there I was. Now I'm still in British Columbia, BC, as we call it up here. And this time I'm in the Kootenays, in Castlegar. I was going to school to get into forestry. And I had a bunch of friends up there who were in the aviation program. And they told me about this crashed airplane up on top of Sentinel Mountain, which is the final mountain in the divide between the Columbia and the Kootenay River. Which is another good story, but whatever. Anyway, so they told me there's this crashed airplane, and I absolutely had to go see it. So, me and my brother, and a buddy of ours, we were all living up there, so I figured, I'll get the GPS coordinates off these guys in the aviation program, and we'll go check this out. Now, it was a blast. I'm trying to get up to this crashed airplane. I mean, if you know anything about the area, it's really cool. It's a real ancient riverbed, just carved out over thousands and thousands of years. The Columbia and the Kootenay rivers are big rivers these days, but they used to be massive rivers. And what's left of the riverbed these days is about as steep as you could imagine, and they should be. Not quite a 45. I mean, that's a ridiculous angle, but when you're, it's in BC, none of the mountains are, well, in the Kootenays, none of the mountains are bald-topped like they are in Alberta, like they are in the Rockies. So there's dense forest all the way up them, but you're still on all fours crawling up the mountain. Because we did not have a trail. We were just bushwhacking up there through dense forest. And so we're picking up chunks of pine needles. I mean, it's a ponderosa, predominantly ponderosa and lodgepole pine forest. Now, this is all stuff I learned because I was getting into forestry at the school there. That we did all kinds of trips. I learned all the Latin names and all the. I gotta change the angle of this thing. I feel like I'm crouching. I gotta fix something. If I get good at editing, you won't hear this, but it's likely that you will hear this. Anyway, so pulling up chunks of pine needles as we're crawling up this thing, because the forests there are so smart. I mean, when people say that they want to meet intelligent life on other planets, I challenge them to come up with more intelligent life than trees that have evolved for this long. I mean, the way that they combat other trees and other foliage is crazy. I mean, you talk about some trees down in the United States that, like, whole forests that'll migrate with the climate and stuff. These things create their own climate. They learn to drop their needles and create brilliant fire conditions that only they can survive. So the ponderosa pine grows up to have this thick, corky bark, so it can survive many small fires. Not big ones, but they like to create brush fires that just kill everything around it. Lodgepole pines, they have a special kind of pine cone that only open up after there's been one of these fires that go through. Now, this is really cool. Because it's just, you get this fire that comes through, kills everything. And then beautiful, no competition for the lodgepole pine cones to have when they're growing up as saplings. Cause, they're conifer trees, so they don't grow as fast as deciduous trees, but it's just very, very cool stuff. Creating the perfect climate for them to thrive in. Now, I'm also part of that perfect climate that they thrive in. Because there we were, climbing up this 40-degree sort of slope. And we're like, oh, okay, there's a little gully or drainage basin kind of eating a chunk out of the mountain. It's a little more gradual. We can kind of walk up there. So we do that until we get to the point where it becomes a cliff. I'm like, well, that's not gonna happen. We're not gonna climb up that. It's like, you could imagine in a heavy rainfall season, that could be a waterfall or something like that. So we take off to the right after we get up this good chunk. And when you know it, we find ourselves another cliff. This time it's a band of cliffs, of cliff face. It's probably 25 feet tall. Goes for I don't know how far. Or you can go up the right. We came up from the right. Or you can go up the right in between these two, and it's pretty steep, but doable. And it's better than going all the way around that side or climbing up the kind of waterfall thing that we were facing the first time. But we were pooped. I mean, we'd been doing this I brought my GPS with me to get the coordinates. We were pooped. We had, oh my God, 2.5 horizontal kilometers. That's nothing. But it was so freaking steep. So, with about 4.5K left to go, we were like, we've made so much vertical distance, it can't be that much farther. Let's set up a camp, have a lunch. We'll put our bags down, and I'll mark it on my GPS. We'll come back, get the bags on the way back. Well, part of having lunch was starting a fire. That was a good beverage. And making a fort. There's a lot of dried branches and crap that we had to build a fort with. So we did. And put our little fire inside of our fort. And had lunch. It was a great time. Oh yeah, also we had our little dog with us, Jim James. Named after the lead singer of My Morning Jacket. It was a good time. Loved living in the Goonies. Anyway. We have our lunch. Put as much water as we can on that fire. And, because we know nobody brought enough water for the trip. Still try not to laugh into the microphone. So, we poured as much water as we could on it. Had a pee on it. Did our best to put it out. Stepped on it a bunch of times, churned it. But, you guys know how this story ends. And as I said, I like to kind of bury this, but we ended up walking on. We ended up marking the location and continuing on our journey up the mountain. And my God, we did not make good time. Not at all. We continued to scramble on all fours up the mountain until we found this Forest Service road. And we're like, oh my God, about time. We gotta be right near the top of the mountain. We gotta be almost done with this vertical. We were not done with the vertical. But we followed this service road as far as we could. But it just seemed to go around the mountain. So, we had to abandon it and just start heading straight back up the mountain. And I'll tell you, that was disheartening. And so, combined with being disheartening, and also, it's getting on in the day. We were not early risers, and we did not expect, 5-ish, 6, 7 kilometers to be this much of a trek. So we're like, damn it. Maybe we need to get up earlier to do this hike. Maybe we need to find this Forest Service road and take that up. It'll save us a whole bunch of trouble if we ever want to come back, when we want to come back up here. So we decided, alright, nobody wants to walk down this in the dark. And it's getting dark. Well, it wasn't getting dark at that point. But it was gonna be dark soon. Sooner than we would be down the mountain if we kept going on for another hour. And if we wanted to hang out at the crash site, which we would if we got there. So as a group, we decided we would head back down the mountain. And well, that was lucky, because you know how the story ends. But again, I like to bury the fact that this is a story about a fire quite often. You know, maybe I'll make another version of this if I end up doing these videos for you know, a year or more. That'd be a good time to do another version, burying the fact that this is a fire. Anyway, so we head back down the mountain. Oh, and that is so much more fun than going up. I mean, uphill. You're just, you know, almost all of the time we're on all fours, crawling up this mountain, trying our best to make the most of the vertical kilometers, or the horizontal kilometers, and they are tough. But going down, I mean, it's like we're monkeys. You know, it's at first we start running, and then you pick a tree in the middle distance, and you just run down the mountain, and then you stop yourself on that tree. You hold on to that tree. But then we got real good at it after, I don't know, not too long. We just start hanging off of trees and swinging off of them. One onto the next, onto the next, onto the next. And then I just, you know, I'd stop every few hundred, you know, pull out my GPS, I'd check, make sure we're on the right track. And we're getting closer and closer to where we left the backpacks. We're just swinging like monkeys going down the hill here, going down the mountain. And it gets to the point where it's getting kind of close to dusk. And this is the bit where I love it if people don't know it's a fire. Because I really like talking about how I get to walk through a low-hanging cloud. But it was not a low-hanging cloud. So we end up coming around. I talked about that cliff band earlier on, and now we went up the left-hand side of it. In between there and where the, just to the right of where that waterfall was. So we end up coming around. If you're facing uphill, whatever, it doesn't matter. The other side of the cliff band, we enter this low-hanging cloud. But it's not a low-hanging cloud. It smells like campfire. And oh my god, you wouldn't believe it, guys. We had set a forest fire at that point. And I was like, holy shit. I mean, if we were, it was maybe 150 meters. I don't know, what is that in feet? Like 300-400 feet maybe across. And if we turned back any later than we did, we would have run straight, like we would have had a whole fucking deal, a whole nother deal. There would have been a raging fire between us and the car. And we're just bushwhacking, so we don't, you know. And I GPS marked the heart of the fire. So we would have been hooped. As it was. We see this fire. And the three of us start panicking. Well, the four of us. The dog was not happy either. Little Jim James. So there we are, panicking. And so, you know, I don't know if you guys remember last video where we did not know how to put that fire out. Well, we tried the same tactics. This one was not a gasoline fire, though. This one was just pine needles. So we start stepping on them, patting them, and it's working. To an extent. I mean, we're not being caught on fire, but it is raging. It is way too big for us to put out. And so we all take off our overlayers, we're patting it down, stepping on it. We can't put this fire out. It's way too big. So I think, off this flash back from when I was in school, they kind of taught us how to put out fires and some of the tactics. So I say to my buddies, or my buddy and my brother, we gotta dig a trench. Part of the thing is these pine needles are just create this amazing environment for fire to flourish. So we start digging a trench, the three of us, all the way around it. And this trench line is moving as the fire's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and spreading so quickly. So it's starting to catch all the shrubs and the small trees and big bushes and all that. So we're digging a trench around this thing, and remember, we're up against this cliff band. So we're making this semicircle around this fire. And we got a wobbly kind of trench that we're digging around it, and doing our best to just pat out the fire every time it jumps over our trench line. And the three of us are just kind of running back and forth, stopping all every time it jumps over, we just pat it out, and we're digging the trench bigger and bigger wherever we can, whenever we have a moment to, and all that, and it's hot. It is hot as cuss. It is hot as cuss. Oh no. It's time to freshen my beverage. It is hot as cuss. And guys, I didn't grab another mini. I don't know what I'm gonna do at the end of this video. That was an interesting sound. So there we are, digging a trench, trying our best to combat the flames. And at this point, there's, chest high. I'm 6'2", and I'm 6'3" in my big shoes. The flames are getting above my head to at my chest sort of level, all throughout this thing, and it's catching all the lower branches of the trees on fire. Like I said, these ponderosa pines are very resilient to the flames, so they're not catching on fire. I'm not too worried about the big ones going up at this point. There's nothing too crazy yet, it's not like as soon as you have one of those guys go down, well, now there's a lot of fuel. A lot. I mean, I say it was hot. It was. I mean, we were sweating from running. We were sweating from the heat. But this was not the intensity of your California fires. I'm from Alberta. I mean, anybody in the world that's heard about the fires we've had this year. It's not like it's the full thing. We caught this thing right as it started. Right as it started. I said it once, I'll say it again. If we were 15 minutes later, this thing would have been way out of our control. But as it was, we were doing our best, and we weren't outmatched yet. And we were trading blows back and forth, the fire in us. But we were not out. This is when my buddy tells me it's climbing up the cliff face. And I look over, and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. It's climbing right up the cliff face. There are these little pockets of pine needles in this jagged cliff, catching on fire and spreading up and up and over and over. What are we gonna do if this gets up and over? Nothing. That'll be it. We can't deal with that. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'm not afraid of a little fire. So I run across, avoiding most of the bigger flames. Everywhere I'm stepping is on fire. But I run quick, and I run nimble. Do my best not to blow in that microphone. I run quick and I run nimble. And for a few hundred, oh my god, this was a big fire at this point. A few 100 yards, 100 meters or so. I'm running through the fire up to this cliff band. And I climb so fucking fast just to get out of the fire. So this thing's about 25 feet, 30 feet maybe. Luckily I don't need to free solo this whole thing. But I've been climbing quite a few times in my life, so I feel pretty confident. I had my hikers on. They're not climbing shoes by any means, but it's not like my street shoes. I mean, I got a little purchase on them. So I start just every pile of pine needles I'm just pulling out. And I like pull my hands into my overshirt, because I'd put that back on at that point, because that's the best way to, get through the fire without being burnt on your skin. I don't know. And I'm pulling out flaming pine needles. I'm pulling out low-hanging pine needles. I'm just doing my best to be, kind of above the flames. And just climbing along this cliff wall here. And, I'm up there for quite a long time, just hanging out, and then I'll see another pocket set on fire, and I'll climb over, or sometimes, it was, we were, basically the strategy was just wait this thing out. If we got this trench dug, the pine needles will burn themselves out. The small foliage is going to burn itself out. It's going to run out of fuel. So towards the end, I was hanging up on this cliff for a little while. And one other pocket would start up, and if it was close to me, I'd do blah, 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 just get it out of there. If not, I'd hop down, because towards the end, it was starting to burn itself out. So I'd hop down, and I'd run around, just avoiding the big shrubs that were still on fire and all that. And hop up on the other side, climb up, pat that down again, get rid of all the pockets of fire that I could that were climbing the cliff face. Pockets of fire that were climbing the cliff face. Climbing the cliff face. Climbing the cliff face. Yeah, it was crazy. So when we left, when we turned around, a couple kilometers away from the actual crash side of the plane, we were worried about coming down in the dark. As I said a minute ago, our game was a waiting game. Waiting for this fire to burn out. Yeah, we ended up sitting there way into the night. This thing was going, we thought we put out that first fire, so we waited a while. Make sure this big one was out. And this was, I don't know how long it was that we waited, but hours. And as we started walking down in the dark, clambering down a lot more careful than our monkey fucking tree swinging ways were the first time. We'd look back every once in a while, make sure it didn't start up again, make sure we didn't all have to run up. Then we got back to the car, checking again, make sure we don't have to run back up that hill and put out that fire again. But anyways, that was, it was pretty nutty. That was a pretty crazy time. Not the first big fire had started, but at least I put this one out a little more sensibly than the first, Anywho, that'll do it for the day today. Maybe, I got a couple more good stories like these. Maybe I'll share them next time. But, alright, we don't have a mini today. We've got a fun sticker. Whoa. Isn't she pretty? I don't know where to put this. But that's I don't know, the closest thing around me to a collection piece that I have. I guess it's in a box of magic cards. This is gonna be a long video. What do we have here? It's a bunch of magic cards. Wow, these guys are cool looking, actually. Pretty cool looking. I need a better camera. These were the Skyward Eye Prophets. They cost 3 generic, green, a white, and a blue. So 6 mana is pretty expensive. They're a human wizard with vigilance, and they're a 3/3. Now that's not very good, but they got more than combat stats. You can tap them to reveal the top card of your library. So that's pretty cool. They do well in a deck where you can scry and make sure that you're putting land if you need it, or not missing a draw if you need that too. Anyway, maybe I'll do magic cards sometimes too. That's me. That was my story. That was my little collectible at the end. Hope you guys have a good night.